So, one thing I rely on in nonverbal communication is facial expressions. I think facial expressions can tell a lot about how a person is really feeling or how a person really feels, and it can also um, kind of solidify how a person feels. So, for example, if I'm asking someone, "How you feeling today?" and they say, "Oh, I'm feeling good," but they don't say, "I'm feeling good." They just kind of say it solemnly. That kind of shows that they really may not be feeling good. So I really rely on facial expressions to solidify or validate what that person is saying. Also rely on facial expressions to as a form of communication without verbal communication. So if I say something that a person doesn't respond to verbally, but they may respond to non-verbally, such as facial expressions, that can tell me how they're feeling. So if I say something they don't agree with, they might be like, just kind of give me like a wide eye, or if I say something they do agree with, they may smile. So that kind of shows me how they're feeling without even saying it verbally. Also rely on like body position. I feel like someone's really engaged in my conversation if they're facing me, if they're giving me eye contact, if they're not in their head, like you said, minimal encouragers or something like that. If they're like doing something else or they're not really facing me, looking at me, giving me feedback, then that kind of tells me that maybe they're not really interested. But I know I need to be mindful of that, um, because as the text says, some African Americans may not use eye contact, or it's frequent that they may actually engage in other activities while talking to people. So I do need to be mindful of that, especially with other cultures. Um, I believe it's important for us to pay attention to nonverbal messages um, as counselors because, like I said earlier, that can tell really how a person's feeling. So if I have a little kid that's like, "Oh, nothing's wrong," but they kind of look upset or they kind of look down, something is wrong. So it seems like that may be a deeper issue that I need to address. Um, it's also critical for us to pay attention to the nonverbal messages that we are sending. So let's say someone comes in and wants to talk to me about an issue they have with drugs. Let's say they come in and say, I'm doing heroin. If I make a huge eye or my mouth drops or something, they may see that as, well, she doesn't really like what I'm doing, so she may judge me. So I'm not going to feel comfortable talking to her about that. So it's important for me to be mindful about my facial expressions and kind of like Freud said, have that blank slate, not necessarily a blank slate as in no emotion, but I need to be mindful of the emotion that I am sending and just kind of make sure they're neutral so that people may not have the wrong connotation about me. Um, so I think it's nonverbal messages are really important, and counselors really should not ignore them because I think they can actually do more than verbal messages. Verbal messages people can lie, but to me it's really hard to hide your nonverbal messages. So I think it's really important as counselors that we